across the vastness of the multiverse, where cosmic empires warred and eldritch horrors slumbered, a peculiar anomaly sent ripples through space-time. A bounty had been placed on a mysterious being, a creature so powerful that even the toughest intergalactic warlords feared his name. Price? A fortune beyond imagination. The client? Unknown. The target? A bald, caped man from a seemingly insignificant planet. The bounty reached the ears of Lobo, the last Czarnian, a spacefaring biker with an appetite for carnage, and an ego the size of a black hole. The main man grinned at the bounty details, flicking a cigar. One bald dude? This is gonna be a fragging joke. Lobo chuckled, revving his space hog. He punched in the coordinates to Earth, eager to claim his payday. A peaceful afternoon. The sky was clear, the streets were busy, and a certain bald man, clad in a yellow jumpsuit and a white cape, wandered the supermarket aisles, comparing the prices of instant noodles. Saitama, the self-proclaimed hero for fun, sighed as he stared at a discounted pack. Man, even with this sale, it's not as cheap as last week. Maybe I should have stocked up. Boom! An explosion rocked the city. Windows shattered. People screamed. Buildings trembled as a massive motorcycle, covered in spikes and roaring with unnatural energy, tore through the streets. It crashed into the pavement, sending shockwaves that flipped cars like toys. At the center of the destruction stood Lobo, cracking his knuckles as he exhaled a puff of cigar smoke. All right, you humps, listen up. I'm looking for some bald dude in a cape. You hand him over, and maybe I won't frag this whole city for kicks. The citizens cowered, but one figure remained unfazed. Saitama stood outside the store, holding his grocery bag. He blinked, scratching his bald head. Are you talking about me? Lobo turned, his red eyes locking onto the unassuming hero. His grin widened. Well, yesterday's my lucky day. You're the little freak causing all the ruckus, huh? Saitama tilted his head. Ruckus? I just came to buy some noodles. Lobo laughed, a deep, guttural roar that shook the air. Ain't no way I'm losing to a bald geek in pajamas. But hey, orders are orders. The main man's gotta take you in, dead or alive, preferably in pieces. Saitama sighed, adjusting his grocery bag. Man, I really don't feel like doing this right now. Lobo stomped forward, grabbing his chain and hook, spinning it effortlessly. Too bad, cue ball, because I'm about to have some fun. Lobo lunged, swinging his chain at blinding speed. The weapon cut through steel, tore up the streets, and sent debris flying. But before it could reach Saitama, whoosh! The caped hero dodged effortlessly, sidestepping with the boredom of a man swatting away a mosquito. Lobo's eyes narrowed. The frag? He snapped his chain back and threw a massive punch, enough to crater a mountain. Saitama tilted his head, dodging again, still holding his grocery bag. Lobo growled, "Quit dancing and take your beat like a man." Saitama let out a deep sigh. He placed his groceries down and rolled his shoulders. Fine, if you won't leave me alone, I'll at least finish this quick. Lobo snarled, "Oh, now you're done pissed me off." He reached into his belt and pulled out his frag grenades, hurling them forward. The city block erupted in flames, shockwaves tearing through the streets. But when the smoke cleared, Saitama stood there, unscathed, expression unchanged. Lobo's jaw tightened. The hell kind of freak are you? Saitama took a slow step forward, his eyes sharpened for the first time. Just a guy who's a hero for fun. Lobo grinned, lighting another cigar. All right, Baldy, now I'm interested. The Czarnian revved his space hog, pulling out his hooked chainsaw, a weapon that could tear through Superman-level foes like butter. He charged at hypersonic speeds, the ground crumbling beneath him, swinging his weapon at full force. And then, Saitama vanished. In the blink of an eye, he was right behind Lobo. A single punch flew. Boom! The shockwave shattered windows for miles, the sky itself splitting apart from the sheer force. Lobo flew backward, smashing through 7 buildings, his body tearing through the landscape like a meteor. He skidded to a stop, embedded into the pavement. Saitama dusted off his gloves. There, you done. For a moment, there was silence. The wind howled. The rubble settled. Civilians peeked from their hiding spots. Then, Lobo laughed. Huh? Fragged me sideways. That actually hurt. He stood up, cracking his neck, blood dripping down his face, only for his wounds to vanish instantly. His grin widened, showing his razor-sharp teeth. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Saitama frowned. Wait, you're still alive? Lobo spat, his body already regenerating from the damage. He flexed his fingers, his muscles rippling with newfound excitement. You see, Baldy might be the strongest chump I ever fought, but there's one thing he didn't count on. Saitama raised an eyebrow. And what's that? Lobo grinned wickedly. I don't frag and die. Lightning cracked in the distance. The battlefield was set. The unstoppable punch had met the unkillable force. This was only the beginning. The ruins of City Z lay in devastation. The once thriving metropolis had been reduced to little more than rubble and smoldering wreckage. Fires burned in the distance, thick smoke curling into sky. The wind carried the echoes of sirens, the frightened murmurs of survivors, and the steady crunch of debris beneath Saitama's boots. Yet, in the middle of this destruction, the battle had only just begun. At the center stood Lobo, the unkillable Czarnian, rolling his shoulders and cracking his knuckles. A grin stretched across his face. His jacket was torn, blood dripped from his forehead, but his body was already healing, flesh knitting itself back together as if Saitama's attack had never happened. Across from him stood Saitama, his expression unchanged, his body relaxed, but his eyes slightly narrowed for the first time in a long while. This guy, he actually took a serious punch. Lobo spat on the ground, wiped his chin, and stretched his neck with few satisfying cracks. IQ ball. That was a good one. You got some serious fragging muscle behind that fist. He grinned. But let me tell you something. You ain't never taking the main man down for good. Saitama blinked, looking at his fist, then back at Lobo. You're still standing? Lobo smirked. Damn right. I ain't some weak-ass villain you squash in one punch. He rolled his shoulders, popping every joint back into place. I ain't Superman. I ain't some cosmic deity. I'm just Lobo. And you know what that means. Saitama sighed, shifting his grocery bag from one hand to the other. That you're gonna keep talking? Lobo pointed at him. That means I don't die. Lightning cracked in the distance. The very air felt heavier, as if the universe itself recognized that an unstoppable force had just met an unkillable one. Then, Lobo charged. His hooked chain lashed out, moving at speeds that could rip apart entire planets. He swung with enough force to shatter mountains, aiming to wrap the weapon around Saitama's throat. Saitama tilted his head slightly. Whoosh! The chain missed completely, cutting to the pavement and carving a deep trench through the earth itself. The shockwave alone toppled nearby buildings, sending tremors through the ground. Lobo didn't hesitate. He pulled the chain back, switching tactics. He vanished in a blur, appearing behind Saitama, swinging his spiked knuckles at hypersonic speeds. Saitama raised his hand and caught the punch effortlessly. The ground beneath him shattered instantly, breaking apart into massive floating chunks. The force of the impact sent miles-long shockwaves across the ruined city. Lobo's grin faltered for the first time. The frag? Before he could react, Saitama tightened his grip. Lobo's entire arm fractured instantly, the bones inside turning to powder. The main man roared in pain, yanking himself free as he stumbled back, his mangled limb hanging uselessly. But even as he winced, the Czarnian laughed, watching as his arm began regenerating within seconds. Ha! Nice try, Baldy. But I told you, Saitama was already there. A single step, one instant, and then, bang! A fist collided with Lobo's chest. A punch thrown faster than light itself. The sky split apart. A shockwave erupted with enough force to tear reality itself, warping the very air as the sheer power of the impact exploded outward. Lobo's eyes widened in shock as he felt something alien, something he had never felt before. He was breaking apart, his bones liquefied, his organs vaporized. His entire form stretched into oblivion as the force of Saitama's punch sent him flying beyond the planet's atmosphere, through space, past the moon, through the asteroid belt. He flew, spiraling into the void, his regeneration struggling to keep up, his mind barely processing what had just happened. Then, boom, he crashed into an uncharted planet, drilling straight through the surface, tearing through the planet's core and erupting out the other side. His body was reduced to chunks, scattering across the galaxy like cosmic debris. For the first time in his long, violent existence, he didn't regenerate. There was no coming back from this. No clever one-liner. No laughing off the damage. Lobo had lost. Back on Earth, the aftermath, Saitama stood in the middle of what used to be City Z, his cape fluttering from the remnants of the blast. The streets were now deep craters, the skyline completely obliterated. The wind howled, carrying only the faint whispers of what had just transpired. Saitama blinked. That was stronger than usual. He looked at his fist, flexing his fingers. That punch had been different. It felt like fighting Boros all over again. But this time, there was no one left to stand back up. Lobo was gone. For good. A voice crackled through a hidden speaker buried under the rubble. It was Genos, his loyal disciple, trying to re-establish communication. "Sensei, what happened? I lost all readings of the battle." Saitama sighed, glancing at his grocery bag. Nothing much, just some loud guy who wouldn't shut up. He dusted off his sleeves, taking slow steps away from the ruins. He still had his instant noodles. At least the day wasn't a total loss. And with that, Saitama walked away, leaving behind nothing but an empty battlefield. The fight was over. The One Punch Man had won. The end.